Okay, so this is going to be a part two on landscapes. I'm going to show you two more things that you can do within landscapes. So I've already gone ahead and I've kind of adjusted what we've already kind of made with the landscape master material. I've defaulted everything. Everything's been all reset up. I've added a UV tiling set for the broad normal. Same thing here for the UV tiling. And then I've cleaned everything up where I've separated albedo to normal to ORM for at least three separate layers. And then I have our instance material here all set as well, which let me go and start plugging in some textures. We're going to be doing grass for the base. Second one's going to be for gravel. And this one's going to be snow, so I'm just going to use, um, hmm, just go and peruse some normal maps real quick. Let me just use the sandstone. We'll just use that one. And then, of course, since we don't have ORMs, I'm not going to apply it, but we already have them all set up. And like I said in the last one, all it is just taking a layer blend for your ORMs, like you would with the other textures, and then you're going to apply a breakout float 3 component, which separates the single V3 input, and then you can separate it as the three different channels. So what we're going to do now is I've already set up a brand new scene with a flat environment. Here we're going to be able to just do some sculpting instead of just relying on a broad normal to kind of set up this, the scale. So again, you can just do some sculpting if you want to here. But we're not going to be doing uh, anything just yet. Let me see, 100 RUVs. So I'm going to start by showing you guys something where when you start scaling up this type of like sculpting, maybe you want to have some extra details. Like when you start sculpting, maybe you want to have some rock faces show up when you start sculpting some of this like round and stuff. Because when you start seeing like hills and stuff, you would notice those kinds of things. And to do that, we need to figure out how to mask out slope with within the landscape itself. So let's hop into our landscape mat. And we're gonna do it over here because this the most open area. And to figure out the slope information, we need to figure out in relation to the entire world or level how we're going to get that information. And to do that, we're going to use something called vertex color normal. And what it's doing is it's taking the world space information, but it's also using the vertex information of whatever object that it's referencing or sampling. So it's going to take the vertex information of our object, and then it's going to figure out where that is in relation to the world space. And then that's how we're going to figure out our slope. And to do the next thing, we need to kind of mask out where, because it's going to be three dimensions that it's going to be referencing. Again, the thing to note with when you see red labels like this is a kind of scene based node. So it takes information from the level itself to apply to things. So we're going to grab a component mask and we're going to set it to B because if if you guys ever use like grid Cartesian coordinates, like the normal X and the Y, you'll know that like when you're going left to right, it's going to be X, and then when you go up and down, it's Y. Well, in 3D space, there's a third dimension, and that third dimension is going to be the Z, and the Z is going to handle our up to down, whereas our X is going to still be the left to right, but our Y is going to be more of a depth, front to back. And Unreal Engine is a Z up program. There are other engines and other programs like say Maya, the modeling program, that use Y up. But If you really want to get down to it, Z up. It's the best way. Don't ask anyone else on the internet because apparently it's a hot button subject. So we're going to use the component mask to mask out the up and down value. So we're going to do B, and then we're going to create a new parameter. So let me just throw this vector in. And this component is going to be our this is going to be our rock face angle. And I'm going to create a new rock face as a new group. I'm going to set the default value to about 0.5. So what's going to happen is that this guy, whatever we set, it's going to use that kind of information to figure out, say, the slope will start at like 0 on a flat surface, and then it's going to start to go up until we get to about like 90 degrees, which is the secondary flat surface. So we want to be able to angle out and say like anything that's like say from 0 to like point whatever, so 0.25 or even like 0.75 is going to be masked out. And then what we'll do is we're going to subtract our vertex information. So let me hit a subtract. We're going to subtract this information to this angle so that we can start trying to give a very short range of information. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to use a 1 minus to invert to this value. So that we're going to take the opposite information. We're going to divide it just as a simple divide with 1 so that we can start bringing it back towards a normalized number instead of it being like a negative number. And then we're going to take the subtraction information of these two, and we're going to clamp it back to a normal 0 to 1 value. That way it's not taking like weird 90, 70, whatever values and just brings it back to a simplified 0 to 1 value. Then we're going to multiply this polarized, not negative number and multiply it with the 0 to 1 value of this guy. Let me just kind of move it a little bit more. And then we're going to invert it again, because what we're doing is we've already gotten this information with the angle as well as the vertex information. And then what's next is we take all this value, we invert it so that then what we can do is we can apply a sort of a way to control the blending between the rock face and then whatever the ground and upper ground layers are. And to do that, we're not going to do a normal multiplication. We need something stronger than that. So we're going to use a power node, which is something we haven't really done yet before. If you know kind of trigonometry or like advanced algebra, power is kind of like applying exponential values to a number. So I'm going to add a new parameter. I'm just going to copy this guy over. Let's set him to 1. Then we're going to change his name to hardness. And this is just going to be how we handle the blending of the two. And also let me go back and change that. Actually, I'm going to apply it to 0.75 as my default. So now we have all this information, and this is supposed to mask out the slope. What we do now is we're going to use a lerp. And this is how we're going to figure out everything. So let me move this guy. Let me comment him. Rock slope. And let me go find us a texture to use. I think I saw a good one here. This rock basalt. So let me do our rock basalt and let me toss him, I believe I want him here in the whiter colors and then here as the base color. Pull him in. Let's do the same thing for our normal map, which I've also adjusted as well. I found a better way to handle multiplication on things. So what we're going to do is we're going to, this blends base and additional normal information and corrects it so that it's not over normalized in a sense. Basically, if sometimes you apply two normal maps together, it adds on and over strengthens the normal map and it looks too extreme. What this also does is it normalizes the values back to a normal, um, in a sense, the 0.5.51 value that I was showing you with the normal maps before. So let me go back again to this guy, handle alert, plug our information, plug him in as the base, let's plug him as that, and then boom. Now let's hit apply and let's start testing out our new material. So let's start sculpting away. And as you can see, it is working, but I did not set the tiling to be the same for this guy. So let me go back here and let me plug in tiling that we had set before to all the other ones. Let me just set it right there. Let's hit save. Now we have it, and look, it actually is showing a rock face to the top, and it's keeping everything at the bottom. So if I go back and let me click on the landscape to find our instance material, you can actually go back in. Let me minimize some of these, and then let me adjust some of this stuff. Again, you can handle the rock angle from here. So like if you set it to like zero point 0.1 or 1 or something, it's going to adjust that. Oh, I think it's, there we go. I put over ones and now it can't figure out, so it's taking the entire sloping information and applying it to that. And then if you want to, you can go in here and say hit like a 4 or something, and it sharpens the blend. Maybe a 3 might be a little bit better. And 0.75. So the lower this number goes, the more you're going to get grass, in a sense, on the top to figure for slope and stuff. So again, you can sculpt a little bit more, and look, it's starting to kind of give more of like an organic shape to some of these things. You know, apply some like erosion and stuff. And now you have like some simple rock faces. But we're gonna do one more thing for this guy. I've already added the snow in a sense for this material, but I'm gonna try and do one more thing with snow, which is I'm gonna handle a type of when you sculpt high enough, like in our landscape, the higher you sculpt, the more it's actually, let me do the sculpting. The higher you sculpt, the more it's going to show like a snow, or you can even apply other kind of height information here at the top. So let me just go in. Let me plug in a, no, not ABS. It's going to be world position. I always mess up here. So we're going to use this world position. Now, it's similar to how we have with the vertex normals, but we're not going to use it to figure out slope information. We just need height information. And we just need height information for the actual world itself, so that whenever a vertice or whatever happens hits that high point, it's going to mask anything that's above it as what we want. So in this case, let's hit a divide. Same thing like how we're doing the tiling for it. For our landscape, we have to do an inverse of it. But in our case, I'm going to adjust and make a value. Let's say this will be called snow height. Let's set it to like 1,000 because it's going to be, you're going to get real high real quick. And then do the same thing again. We're going to go here. We're going to hit component mask. We're going to choose the B value again because we need height. And then we're going to do another node called a height lerp. So what this does is it takes a height texture and it blends between two values similar to with the lerp, but this actually will use a height texture. So we're using the actual absolute position to create our height texture mask. And then I'll just go in, no, not this one. We'll do a vector 3. We convert this, and this will be our snow. Just do 1, 1, and 1. We're going to put him at the top because that's going to be where the white value is, and then anything below the white value is where we want like our actual like other colors to show up. And let's hit save. Let's minimize, and boom, it's already working. Problem is, it's working too well. That's why we should adjust the height for this guy. Change the height for him. We'll do 2500 instead. So look, you can start doing your sculpting, 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 and then right when you get up out here, you'll notice that we're getting this powdering of snow on there, and it's good because the transition's not too bad. We can actually make like a little simple, tiny mountain range if we want to with this. Let's do some erosion. Might change our tool strength down a bit. And that is just one of the things I just wanted to show you guys about adding an extra landscape information to it. This is also going to be a bit of an introduction to kind of world space stuff. Uh, then one of the next lessons we're going to do is going to be about world space and the use of blending textures. Instead of using texture space, we'll use world space to handle things.